Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on how to build document blueprints. We're going to give it about 30 seconds before we dive in and let people join. Hope you guys are ready to actually see some building in real time because that's what we're going to do. All right, we are going to dive in. So today we're going to talk about how to build document blueprints. And to start, I only have a couple of slides to set the stage. We're going to be doing mostly just building here, but we're going to start with what is a document blueprint. And this is important. A document blueprint is a set of instructions for creating a specific document consistently. You want to get the right output. And so, in order to do that, you have to have a set of instructions that goes over the structure of a document, goes over the content, goes over the intent. And this is important because as we try to automate processes with AI, it's critically important that you can rely on the output of those. If you think about the levels of automation, the more automated a process is, the more important it is to be repeatable. Okay, so the reason this matters is that without a blueprint, you're often going to get good outputs from AI, especially the frontier models, the chat GPTs, the Claudes, but you need it to be repeatable if you're going to start building processes within your business. So a document blueprint is a specification that your AI can follow. And these are the things that you can think about a document blueprint having within it. Okay, it's going to have the type of document, it's going to have some metadata around it describing what is going to be in it, the different fields, the names, the formats. It's going to have all the different sections and the content of those sections. And if you have a very defined set of um, content and structure, then you're going to be able to reproduce it very, very nicely. The same as if you were going to do that with an employee. All right, so that's what a document blueprint is today. So here's what we're going to do. First, we're actually going to go about creating a document blueprint. I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to use a prompt that I'll share with all of you after this. And we're going to extract its structure, write the blueprint, and then we're actually going to build an agent using that blueprint. So step one is going to be creating the document blueprint. Step two is going to be having an agent use that blueprint to then be able to produce a set of documents that's consistent every time. And we'll go through each of these steps live. All right, here we go. So to start, I actually wanted to show that this is pretty much platform agnostic. We're actually going to start in ChatGPT. We're going to move to Copilot afterwards, but we're going to start in ChatGPT. And one of the ways you can think about GPTs is a personal agent that you give instruction to that allows you to create custom interactions and custom instructions. In this case, I want a blueprint creator. I want a GPT where I can drop a document and this GPT will give me back a blueprint of that document. And for those of you who are curious, in order to create your own GPT, you can come to the sidebar here, click Explore GPTs, and go to Create up here in the top right. I've already created one, and we're going to review the different sections of this prompt. But what you do is you give it a name, description, and then you give it the instructions. And the instructions are really where the magic happens. It's pretty difficult to review this here, so I'm actually going to switch over to our website. If you want to view any of the prompts that we're going to be using today, you can come to genserve.ai/prompt library, and I put the document blueprint generator agent instructions up here. This is a prompt, but it's more than a prompt, right? So you can think about a prompt as I paste in a prompt to a chat window and I get back stuff. This is actually agent instructions. It's telling my GPT, my agent, how to act what process to follow. And this is important. So I tell it, you are a document blueprint agent. Your job is to analyze documents and produce reusable blueprints. Okay. And then I tell it that you actually operate in three distinct phases. The first is to actually get the document. Now, if I just come in there and I drag and drop a document to start the conversation, it's smart enough to know to skip this. Okay. But the second is then to do some analysis. And this is a really common and very powerful technique that I encourage almost anybody to do when you have a step by step process, which is first, you basically say, do some analysis on this to understand what it is. And the important thing here is we're actually going to ask the user to confirm these details before it goes on to the second part. So it's going to read that document, it's going to understand its structure and the different parts of it, and then it's going to give it back to the user and say, does this look right? And that validation is very important and very powerful because it allows me as the user to tweak some things if I want, or just to say, no, looks good. And then obviously it's going to actually create the blueprint. And I give it some formatting guidelines, I give it some important notes. All of these are best practices on agents and agent instructions. And you can obviously tweak any of them that you would like. But we're going to see how this works if we come back to ChatGPT. Those instructions are verbatim what I have pasted here, no different whatsoever. So I'm actually going to give it a sample job description, okay? And this is a job description I've had for a while. I want it to use this, and so I'm going to paste that in there and just say, let's create a blueprint from this, okay? And it's going to think about it and say, cool, here's my analysis. What looks right? Okay, it's a job description. Yep, that looks fine. It's a high performance startup. I'm in the startup world. That makes sense. It would be for me. And here's the purpose. Here's the structural elements. It's pointing out some interesting things like there's no required qualification list, there's no salary range, there's really no company overview. That all is correct. And so now it's looking at the section breakdown. This looks good. So I'm going to look at this, come down here and say, does this look right? Yes, that looks good. Go ahead and create the blueprint. And here it goes. So this is going to be the document blueprint that says, here's the document type, here's the structure, here's a section by section breakdown. It's giving examples. And the purpose here is that I can take this exact blueprint. I could create another GPT that could be my job description generator. But that's exactly what we're going to do. We're just not going to do it in ChatGPT. Instead, we're going to go and do it in Copilot. And the purpose here is just to show that all of these concepts stay the same. They stay consistent, regardless of what platform you're on. Okay. So I'm going to take this entire thing and I'm going to ignore this last part because it's offering to do something else with me. I could have told it to create a document, like a download, a docx from it, but this is totally fine. Like I can actually say, let's just copy this whole thing all the way up here. And then I can come over to Copilot and we can start there. All right, now I'm in Copilot. And what's interesting is you'll notice patterns across the different providers. You have what's called gems inside Gemini, Project Gemini. If you're a Google-based shop, you can get a gem, and a gem is something that has custom instructions. It's the same as a GPT. Inside Microsoft 365, you have agents, and agents are the same as the GPT, where I can click on New Agent, and as soon as it loads, because we all know that Microsoft 365 is the fastest thing ever, I can say job description drafter. And we're actually, you see that I already have one here. I'm going to talk about the differences between these, okay? We're going to describe the agent, draft, job descriptions, according to my company guidelines. And then we would literally just paste what I received from my GPT in here. Verbatim, we're going to paste it here. Okay. Um, and down here at the bottom, it actually says, how do you use this? Well, we just told it how we use it. So we can save this and create it. And I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it here. But one of the things that I want to point out is if I'm an organization using Copilot, when I, as a user, come in and create an agent like this, it's available to me because I created it, but it's not available to my organization. And after we kind of go through the entire process of having created a document blueprint, creating something from that document blueprint, we'll talk about the differences and how you can roll that out to your entire organization. But that's a critical distinction there that I want to point out, that this would be a personal agent for me within Microsoft 365. It would not be available to my organization. So I've already created this and I went through the same process. I came in, I created an agent, I gave it custom instructions, and here we go. Like I came in here and I said, hey, you're a document writer agent. Your job is to write polished, well-structured documents based on a blueprint embedded in these instructions. You don't need the user to provide a blueprint. It's already defined below. And here's my blueprint. And it's for job descriptions, which is why I've called it a job description drafter. I know it's crazy how specific and creative that name is, but it doesn't need to be. And this is the same thing that we already saw, where it's got the structure, it's got a section by section breakdown. It's very, very formal here. Okay. Um, but what's also critical here is that for my instructions, I once again asked it to operate in phases. And this is very important for agents instruction, where I say, hey, you operate in two phases. First, you need the source content to get started. What that means is, what job would you like to write a description for? Obviously, uh, that's necessary to write a job description. And so I say, hey, if no content has been provided, ask for it. And I also say, if content has been provided, go ahead to without asking questions. I also allow it to come back and basically say, here's some notes about things that are missing or things that could be better. What would you like me to change? So I've taught this agent to be iterative in its approach. I've actually kind of designed it so that I will be taking feedback from the user and improving upon what it produces. I won't simply be saying, this is a one shot, one and done, create it and I'm done. I'd rather get it right. Okay. So I gave it some examples and then it's going to go into gap analysis and refinement. But that's kind of a optional example. So let's test this out. Okay, so I've already done this. This is already published. So I'll come back here and I'll say, let's create a job description for a quality assurance team member. This would be a full-time team member who is responsible for testing the software output of my dev team. That's it. That's all I'm going to give it. And I'm going to see how's it do. All right, so here's the first draft. Remember, I told it if it's given content, go ahead with the first draft. Allow it to um, basically draft the entire thing. And if and when it is done and you have additional questions, then you can ask those questions. And I did this very intentionally. I did this because I didn't want the user to be pestered by a whole bunch of questions before it gets any value. For me, I would rather go ahead and let it get some value first, and then we can iterate on it afterwards. And for me, that's a much, much better way of seeing um, iterating on it rather than just having a whole bunch of questions at first. So At the very end here, it says, here's your first draft, and here are areas that could use more details. What are the specific responsibilities? And it's helping me kind of think through what those might be. What's the profile that it looks like? Are you looking for entry level or mid? Are there any benefits? Or, would you like to put some information about the company? And, that's all of those are good things that I should probably add to my job description. But what I do want to show though is the structure of this document. And that's pretty important. So I'm going to show what I originally put in here. So this is the job description that I uploaded originally. Here's the title of the job. Here's who we're looking for, what you'll do. You're the type who does this. What's in it for you? So this is the structure of the document and the content within each section. Well, if I come back here, that's the structure I got out. I said, here's the title, who we're looking for, what you'll do, you're the type who, what's in it for you. So same structure, same content. And that's the purpose of a document blueprint, is to make sure that I get the same structure and the same content every time. And that's really, really important. Now, that's front to back, right? That's front and center. And in case you're wondering, I also provide a prompt on our website about being a document generator with a blueprint. So in here, you can literally say you're a document writer agent. Your job is to take a provided blueprint and source content and provide a well-structured, polished document that follows the blueprint specifications, okay? And it says you need two things to get started, a blueprint and source content. You can take this prompt, you can hardwire the blueprint into this prompt and create your own generator for a specific type, or you could just use this with any blueprint and it will faithfully recreate documents. So that's also on the website. Feel free to grab it and do anything you'd want with it. Now, this goes front and center. We're actually going to dive into how you make this available to your organization. But if you have any questions, I am watching the LinkedIn Live. There's about a 50 second to a minute delay. So if you ask a question, it'll probably take me around a minute to see it. But if you ask any questions, I'd be happy to answer them about this process as I dive into how you'd make this available to your organization. All right, remember, we were in Microsoft 365 Copilot. We see a job description drafter here. This is the one that I just created as part of my organization, and it's only available to me. So the question is, how could we make it available to our organization? Well, we actually have to use a different section of Copilot to do that. To do that, we actually have to go to Copilot Studio, okay? And Copilot Studio is also part of Copilot, but it's a totally different part where you are specifically building agents and flows, and these can be very, very powerful, okay? So flows are the ability for your agent to follow a step-by-step process and really kind of hook it up to multiple Microsoft tools. So for instance, you could wire up a flow that sent an email, received an email, analyzed something, created a document, read a document. The sky's kind of the limit there. So it really just depends on how deep you'd like to go. If you're curious about that, let me know. And I'd be happy to walk you through some of the things that we've seen and are possible. But this is where you have to create an agent to make it available to your entire organization. And I actually created the blueprint writer here within Copilot Studio for the purposes of kind of walking through this, because there are actually several steps to this process. You have to create the agent, and creating the agent is actually very, very similar to what we've already seen. You create the agent using instructions, you pick a model, and you have a bunch of other tools that you can hook up. I've actually hooked up creating a Word document with this particular agent so that if anybody wanted to um, download it as a Word document, they'd be able to do that. But after you do that, you actually have to go to channels and you have to add Teams in Microsoft 365 Copilot as a channel before you publish it. Now, there are two or three other settings that you have to set all around organization permissions. So, as an organization, and this is at top level Copilot admin type stuff, you have to say, we allow this individual to publish agents. You also have to hook up specific models. So, for instance, if you'd like the Anthropic models to be available, then you have to say, set that up as well. Um, but the main purpose here that I want to show everybody is you have to publish this agent. You have to make sure that the Microsoft channels, Teams and 365 Copilot, are selected and published. And then it will go to approval. And your normal users who log in will actually see that when they log in, and it'll be available for them. So if you as an organization want to create a set of agents that are trained in your processes. They create documents according to your specifications, according to your formats. You have maybe internal review policies, and you have very specific guidelines around how they can be used and what they mean. Well, you can create agents within Copilot or within ChatGPT, especially if you have an enterprise plan, and you can make them available to your organization. And when you do that, then all of a sudden, everybody will be seeing the same output every time. So, kind of as a wrap, there's a process to making sure that you're creating content that's very reproducible, that's very structured. And that process really is to make sure that you define your structures first, and then you use that structure very, very consistently. And a couple of examples of that. So, to wrap this up, if you'd like to see any of the prompts that we used, you can just go to genserve.ai, click on the prompt library. We actually have quite a few other prompts up here, but as we do additional webinars in the future, you can see these. If you're curious in the slides themselves, that's also on our website under webinars and document blueprints. But I'll share all of that after the meeting itself. And that's a wrap of what we wanted to cover today. So thank you for joining. I'll actually stick around on the feed. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I'd be happy to answer that. But appreciate you coming today and I hope it was useful. Thanks.